2 tomato plants. Same seed packet. Same soil. Same day in the ground. And yet, one of them stands almost twice as tall as the other. Dark green. Thick-stemmed. Already setting little tomatoes along the vine. The other one, small. Bale. Bare. Now, a man looks at that, and he thinks one of them got lucky. Or maybe the other one got sick, but it wasn't luck. And it wasn't sickness. The strong one got fed something. Something the weak one never touched. And here's the part that'll surprise you. It costs next to nothing. I'm Elias. My family came over from the Palatinate back in 1838. And we've grown tomatoes in this Lancaster County ground every single summer since. And I'll tell you plainly, the secret to a strong tomato plant isn't some bottle of blue powder off a store shelf. It's something you stir up yourself, in your own kitchen, from what's already sitting in your pantry. A neighbor of mine watched it work once, and he laughed, called it my magic elixir. I told him there's no magic in it, only old sense. But I'll admit, when you see the two side by side, it sure does look like magic. Let me start with the one thing that turns this whole matter around. Because once you see it, you'll garden different for the rest of your life. You are not feeding the plant. You are feeding the soil, and the soil feeds the plant. That's the whole secret. Right there. And near about everyone's got it backward. Say it. Folks think a fertilizer is food. You hand straight to the plant, like setting a plate down in front of a child. So they go buy a powder. They dump it right at the base of the stem. And the plant gulps it down and shoots up fast. Green and tall. But weak. My grandfather would have shook his head at that. He taught me the ground is alive. There's a whole hidden world down there. Under your boots. That most folks never think about. Little living things. Beyond counting. And those little things, they're the ones doing the real work. They're the ones that carry food to the root. They unlock what's already sitting in your dirt. And they hand it to the plant in a form it can actually use. Now, a tired soil, a lifeless soil. It's got too few of them. And so the plant starves. Even in good ground, even when you've done everything right on top, you don't need to force feed the plant. You need to wake up the living soil underneath it. And then the soil does the feeding, the way it was always meant to. Let me give you a picture of this. Say a fella moves out to the country, buys himself a little house with a yard, and he wants tomatoes. So he goes to the store, buys the biggest bag of plant food he can find, the one with the giant tomato on the label, and he feeds it to his plants every week like clockwork. And for a little while, it works. The plant gets big, gets bushy, but the fruit comes in small, or it splits, or it rots on the bottom before it even ripens. And he can't figure out why. He's doing everything the bag told him to do. But he never once fed the ground. He fed the plant directly, season after season. And the soil underneath just kept getting more tired, more empty, more dependent on that next bag. That's the mistake near everybody makes. Not because they're careless, because nobody ever told them different. So here's what I want you to understand before we go any further. This tonic I'm fixing to show you, it isn't really plant food at all. It's food for the life in the soil. You feed them. They multiply, and they feed your tomato. That's why a few cups of this does what a whole bag of powder never could. And it costs you next to nothing. Because chances are, you've already got every bit of it sitting in your kitchen right now. So let's go make it. Now, this recipe makes 1 gallon, and chances are, you've got most of it sitting in your kitchen this very minute. You need 4 things. First, yeast. Plain baking yeast. The kind you'd use for bread. A bread starter works just fine too. Any live yeast will do. About 1 tablespoon. The yeast is the heart of this whole thing. And I'll tell you why in just a minute. Second, molasses. about 2 tablespoons. Now, if you've got no molasses in the house, plain sugar will do the same job, though molasses is better because it carries minerals that bare sugar just doesn't have. Third, if you've got it, a cup of buttermilk. Now, this one's not strictly needful, so don't fret if you've got none, but it earns its place. And I'll tell you how in a bit. And fourth one, teaspoon of baking soda. No more than that. 1 teaspoon matters. Too much, and you undo the whole thing. And then, the water, 1 gallon of it. Now, the water matters more than folks think. You want it lukewarm, blood warm, about the temperature of bath water, not hot. Hot water kills the yeast before it even gets started. And it's gotta be clean water. No chlorine in it, because chlorine's put in town water for the very purpose of killing little living things, and that is exactly the opposite of what we're trying to do here. Now, this is where I catch rainwater off the barn roof, into a barrel, free and clean, and nothing in it to harm the life we're trying to grow. The same water that comes down for nothing, while the world would sell it back to you in a jug, if it could. If you've got no rain caught, just let your tap water sit out overnight, uncovered, so the chlorine lifts off. Or use spring water for a small batch. Now here's the step everybody's too impatient for. And impatience is exactly why their batch fails. You wake the yeast up first. Take your warm water. Stir in the molasses or the sugar until it's fully dissolved. Then sprinkle your yeast right across the top. Don't stir it in. Just lay it on the surface so it can spread out and breathe. And then you wait, give it a couple hours. At the very least, but the first time you try this, leave it overnight. When you come back to it, you're looking for a foam on top, a tan froth, like the head on a glass. And that froth, that's the yeast come alive, feeding, multiplying. If you see that foam, your tonic is alive, and it's going to work. If you see nothing, your yeast was dead, and you start over. Better to learn that from a bucket than from a dying seedling. Once it's foaming, stir in your buttermilk, if you're using it, and last of all, your 1 teaspoon of baking soda, and that's it. Your gallon is made. Simple as that. 4 things from your own kitchen. And a little patience. But don't just take my word for how it works. Let me show you exactly what each one of these is doing down in that soil. Now let me tell you plain what each one of these is doing down there in the ground. Because you ought to understand it. Not just follow along blind. Let's start with the yeast. Since it's the main worker in this whole tonic, yeast is a living thing. And when it feeds on that sugar or molasses, it multiplies fast, faster than you'd believe for something so small. And as it multiplies, it stirs the whole soil back to life. It wakes up the good bacteria that's already down there. Sleeping, it wakes the helpful fungus too. And together, all that living activity speeds up the rotting of old matter in your ground, old roots, old leaves. Whatever's decaying down there and turns it into food the plant can actually use. Say, most soil isn't short on nutrients. It's short on life to unlock them. There's plenty sitting down there already, locked up tight, and the plant can't reach it on its own. The yeast is what breaks that lock open. That's the heart of the whole tonic. Right there. Now, the molasses that's not just there for flavor, so to speak. That's the food that keeps the yeast and all that soil life going strong. And molasses carries a bit of iron in it, a little potash, a touch of magnesium and calcium of its own. So it feeds longer and richer than plain sugar ever would. Sugar will wake the yeast up just fine, but molasses keeps the party going. Now, the buttermilk, if you used it, that one brings calcium to the table. And calcium is the very thing a tomato plant is nearly always short of plant. You ever pick a tomato and find the bottom of it gone black, sunken in? Soft. Rotted through before it even ripened. Most folks call that blossom end rot. And they think it's a disease. It isn't. That's a calcium problem. Plain and simple. The plant never got enough of it to build strong cell walls in the fruit. The buttermilk helps head that off before it starts. It feeds calcium into the soil life, which carries it up into the plant, which builds it into the walls of every tomato coming on. And last, the baking soda. Just that one spoonful. What that does is gentle the sourness right at the surface of the soil. Makes the ground a little less acidic. Right where it counts. And a soil that's too sour, too acidic, is a friendly place for molds and blights to take hold. That one spoonful makes it a less welcoming home for all that. Now, here's what I want you to notice. Every single one of these 4 things has a job. None of it's there by accident. Nothing's wasted. The yeast wakes the soil, the molasses feeds the wakening. The buttermilk builds the calcium the fruit is starving for. And the baking soda keeps the whole thing from turning sour and inviting trouble. 4 things, working together, like a team that's been at it a long time and knows exactly what the other's doing. And that's the difference between this tonic and that bag of blue powder from the store. The powder feeds the plant directly, and only the plant. This feeds the whole living system underneath it. The soil, the microbes, the roots, and then the plant, all in the order the good Lord set it up to work. Now, understanding why it works is one thing, but if you use it wrong, and I've seen grown men ruin a good batch of tonic by being careless with it, you can do more harm than good. So let me show you exactly how to put this to use, without undoing all the good it's meant to do. Now, how you use this matters near as much as how you make it. And this is where folks do real harm. If they're careless, so listen close. First, never pour it on dry ground. Straight at the stem. Water your garden lightly first, with plain water, so the soil's already damp. Pouring a strong, living brew onto bone-dry roots can shock them, something fierce. Damp the ground first. Always. Second, you pour this on the soil around the plant, not on the leaves, and not right up against the stem. Either, pour it out a few inches, in a ring, right about where the feeding roots are reaching out to. That way the life grows out into the soil, and the roots grow toward it. Same as they would in nature. Pour it on the leaves, and it does no good at all. Can invite trouble. 2. Third, and this is the one a man's pride trips him up on, do not overdo it. You'll be tempted. You'll think, if 1 spoon of yeast is good, 3 must be better. And you'll pour it on heavy, hoping to double up the magic. Don't. Too much. And you throw the whole soil out of balance. The microbes crowd each other. They compete instead of working together. And you end up with a plant that's all leaf and no fruit. Big, bushy, green as can be, and giving you nothing to eat. The old measure is the right measure. For a seedling, just a few drops near each one, twice a week. For a young plant, in a pot, a 1/4 cup. For a grown plant in the ground, up to a full cup. Once or twice a week? No more than that. And mind you, you still water normal the rest of the time. This is a tonic, not the drink. Do it this way. And over the next few weeks, here's what you'll see. Greener leaves first, within about a week or so. Then thicker stems, more branching out. Then the flowers start coming. And the flowers, well, the flowers are the tomatoes on their way. Now, I won't stand here and promise you some exact number, that your plant's going to triple by next Tuesday. Every garden's its own thing. Every soil's its own thing. And a man who promises you a miracle by the calendar is usually selling you something, but I'll tell you, plainly feed the soil this way, and your plants come on stronger, and they bear better. than the ones you left to fend for themselves. And once you've seen the two side by side, you won't garden the old hungry way again. Works the same for your cucumbers. 2. Your squash, your peppers, the whole garden, not tomatoes only. Now, once you've seen that difference with your own eyes, there's a question worth asking. Why doesn't everybody already know this? Now, let me tell you something. Not to rile you up, just so you see the shape of the thing plain, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. There is no money in yeast. There's no money in molasses. There's no money in rainwater caught off a barn roof. None at all. You already own every bit of it. It's sitting in your kitchen right now, for free. But there is a great deal of money, a great deal in a bag of blue powder with a picture of a giant tomato on the front, sold to you every single spring, season after season, year after year. Same bag, same shelf, and here's the part that ought to make a man think. That fast, salty powder, it feeds the plant directly. It bypasses the soil life entirely, skips right past it. And over the years, that can leave your soil more dead than it found it, more lifeless, more empty, more dependent. So come next spring, you need more of that powder. Not less, more, because the ground under your feet has gotten weaker, not stronger, the whole time you've been feeding it. Now, a tonic like this one, it builds your soil richer, season after season, makes you need less help over time, not more. A powder that feeds the plant and starves the ground underneath it, that makes you need more. Every single year, forever. And I'll ask you plain, which one of those two is the better business? It surely isn't the one that helps your garden. Now, I'm not telling you some man schemed all this up in a back room somewhere. Nobody had to. And that's the part that's almost worse than if they had. It's not a conspiracy. Nobody coordinated it. It's simpler than that. And stranger than that, it just pays better. Pays better to sell a plant food that leaves the soil hungry than it does to teach a man how to feed his own soil for free. Nobody had to plan that out. It just settled into place on its own. The way water finds the low ground, and it's been settling there for a long, long time. So there's the whole of it, laid out plain. Wake live yeast in warm, clean rainwater, with a little molasses to feed it. Give it the night to foam up. Stir in your buttermilk for the calcium. 1 spoon of baking soda. No more. Damp the ground first. Pour it in a ring around the plant, not on the stem, and hold yourself to the small, honest dose, because more is not better here. Not ever. Feed the soil, and let the soil feed the plant the way the ground was made to work in the first place. And it isn't only tomatoes that'll thank you for it. Either your cucumbers, your squash, your peppers. The whole garden comes up stronger once the ground beneath it is alive again. Now, my grandfather never bought a single bag of plant food in his whole life. Not one. And his tomatoes were the envy of the whole township, because he understood something most folks have forgotten. The secret was never in the plant. It was always in the ground beneath it. The garden that feeds a family, year after year. It's the garden whose soil remembers how to live, low down where the life is. That's where you feed it. And then you stand back, and you let it do what it was always made to do. A garden's not a thing you force. It's a thing you feed. My grandfather's tomatoes were the envy of the whole township. And not because he had some special seed, or some secret bottle from the store. It was because he understood something the world's near about forgotten. The people who built this country with their hands, they knew it too. Feed the ground, and the ground will feed you back. Faithful, every single season. So go on. Go wake up that yeast tonight. Give it till morning, and watch for that foam. And then go feed your soil. and let your soil feed your garden. Now, I want to hear from you. Down in the comments, tell me, what are you growing this year? Have you ever fed your soil instead of your plant before today? And tell me your county and what your dirt's like. Sand, clay, good black loam. Because I'll tell you, this tonic does the most good in the tiredest soil there is. I read every single one of them. If this old way of doing things means something to you, hit subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Share it with somebody who's fighting to keep their tomatoes alive this year. They'll thank you for it. Next time, I want to show you how we make compost that never stinks. Because most folks' compost pile turns into a sour, slimy, reeking mess that draws flies. The old people made sweet-smelling black earth from those very same scraps. And there was one thing in it that the modern pile is missing